Hello everyone, I'm Ria. Welcome back to Up the North. I hope you all enjoyed yesterday's festival lineup. It was a massive day full of loads of amazing artists, so thank you again to everybody who got involved and to everybody who watched, and especially to everyone who donated as well if you were able to. So thank you for all your support. Today is a lot more of a chilled day. We've got some amazing chats coming up with, especially in this session, with lots of theatre companies, and then later at 4:30 we've got a Q&A with Craig Parkinson, who's an actor and also has his own podcast. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So this is the Theatre Company Roundtable session, and so we've got 3 theatre companies who are based in the north. So if everybody wants to turn on their cameras and unmute themselves. Hello.
Hello.
Do you all want to go round one by one in whatever order you want to? In fact, I'll pick an order just so it's not that awkward thing. So we'll go Joe, Prab, and then Henry. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and your company.
Hi, everyone. So, my name is Joe. I am representing Hung Theatre today, which is a Manchester-based theatre company, all about new writing. So we're a bunch of Royal Exchange Young Company writers, alumni, which is a mouthful, that all just banded together to create a theatre company to put on our work and help support local artists.
I'm Prab Singh, the Managing Director of the Northwest Theatre Arts Company, CIC, also known as NWTAC, based in Moston, North Manchester. We're a theatre company. We've got a little 84-seat theatre in Moston. We train young people for the industry. We hire set, props, costumes. We literally do anything theatrical. That would probably have been a better, shorter name rather than the Northwest Theatre Arts Company, CIC. So yeah, it's literally anything theatrical. We support companies like yourselves and, from far afield, as well as focusing a lot of our stuff in the north.
And I'm Henry. I'm a co-artistic director of Vandal Factory Theatre Company, alongside Natalie Quatermass. We're based in York and Leeds, and we're, I guess, still using that tag, emerging company. We're starting working on our second show last year, and we try and make DIY theatre that's radical and political, that tells stories using spoken word and music.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much. So the way the session is going to work is a bit like a round table. So it's more of a conversation than it is of like an interview or kind of like quizzing you all. So we've got some focus points. So the first thing that we're going to start off with is basically how your companies all came to be. So what was the inspiration for them? How did it turn into what you've got now? And yeah, how did you start? Anyone can chirp in whenever you want.
We're all like, should we keep going, Joe, me and Henry?
Okay, let's go around for this one.
We'll do that.
Individual. I kind of said it in my intro, we're just a bunch of alumni writers that came together to form a theatre company. So new writing is kind of our main focus point. One thing that we decided when we were joining together was that we wanted the writing to be at the heart of the theatre that we create. So that's kind of our through line with everything, because for us, theatre is kind of essentially about telling stories, and everything has to work towards serving the purpose of the story and the writing. So we, at all points, try and protect the writer, whilst also offering as many creative liberties as possible to other creatives, because we understand that we can't do it without you. So yeah, that's kind of us in a nutshell.
NWTAC kind of started many years ago. It's had like different forms, but before NWTAC started, there's a little known theatre called the Abraham Moss Theatre. It's part of a big complex. It's got a library, leisure centre in Crumsall, North Manchester. I used to be the director there. I was the theatre manager and artistic director of the theatre. It was council run, supported and run by Manchester City Council. Cutting a long story short, they kind of cut all the funding. When they cut the funding, by that time we used to put on community productions. So like an Amdram, but not associated with NODRA or anything like that. We had a youth theatre, which had 80, 90 kids in it, all from around the area, all from the north, paying 50p for a 3-hour session because that's all they could afford. And even sometimes people came in and said, I don't have it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not about the money. It's about keeping you guys off the streets, giving you a direction, a focus. So yeah, once the funding got cut, alongside what my NWTAC now company directors, a guy called Mark Beaumont, Lauren Anderson, who now runs the Northwest Youth Theatre, and a girl called Holly Young, we kind of decided we didn't want it to die. So we spoke to the powers that be and asked them, could we use the theatre in our own time to kind of set up a theatre company? That was in 2009. So the theatre is no longer in use. It's part of a primary school. It's the centre point in primary school. Hey ho, go figure. But it's essentially, you can't use it as a theatre anymore. So we moved around, did some work with the Factory Youth Zone in Harper Hay, had a partnership for a while with Manchester College across the road in Harper Hay. And then we stumbled upon the old Tizer factory. Remember that horrible drink? Well, some people might like it. It's like, give kids loads of E numbers, that Tizer drink. So yeah, it's the old Tizer factory. So we took over renting that about 3.5 years ago, turned the factory into a theatre, got studio space, a dance studio in there, mini theatre, foyer, all the ancillary spaces that you need. And yeah, we produce up to 10 in-house productions a year, all a mix of Shakespeare's, musicals, pantomimes, review shows. We do a lot of theatre and education, so we take all the same shows, or different shows as well, and shows to do with anti-bullying, internet safety, reservoir safety, radicalisation. We take that into schools. We also support a lot of companies. We have massive stocks of set, props, costumes. We do them either on commissions or people just come to us and say, I need a 1980s, VCR player for a play. So we say, well, there you go, hire sorted. So yeah, literally anything theatrical but everything's all in the north. We service people in the south. We have sets and costumes and props and hires and work that comes from down there. But our focus and we want to stay in the north. Because after the closure of the Abraham Moss, there's no other theatre nearby. There are such halls like, the Simpson Memorial, that's a hall on Moston Lane, but they're just not equipped to kind of service the companies that want to use them. And the audiences that come, you're sat on kind of not really comfortable chairs and things like that. And if your audience have to sit in a cold building watching someone try their best with old equipment, it's not the most comfortable. And we have to, although we're artists at the end of the day, you have to think about your audience. So that's us. Henry, sir, over to you.
Thanks, Brad. So me and Natalie, so I'm a playwright and a performance poet, and Natalie's a director, so we just sort of knew each other from around York. She was doing some work at the York Theatre Royal. As an intern, I was doing bits pieces around the city, and we just became really good mates. A few years ago, Nat went to work in Palestine for a year with the Freedom Theatre, and when she came back, she was looking to rebuild and start a new career in the UK, and I was had an idea for a show I wanted to make, so we were just like, let's just make it, let's just get together professionally, and rather than just be a couple of mates, let's actually try and create some work. We made the first show, Whatever Happened to Vandal Raptor, and we sort of decided, let's use this as a springboard to form as a company. So it's a year ago on this coming Thursday that we officially became a company limited by guarantee, that we've been making work for about 4 years together. And we sort of always want to expand, and that's something that we're discussing, is like, where does the company go next when it's us two, but then it could be so much more than just two people, and how do you fit people in? So it sort of came out of the desire to just make something, do something, and use it as a sort of way to push our careers, as a way to make work, as a way to explore and navigate and be creative.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things with especially making your own work and being your own artist and stuff. The best way to get that done is to have your own company. And if you are passionate about something, and if you've got people you're passionate, or you share similar values with them, and you know that you get on really well, both friendly but also professionally, then that can only mean that what your company are going to achieve is through those values. And I think that's really important. Rather than it just being a theatre company kind of for the sake of being a theatre company, it then turns into, oh, actually, we all share these same values. How can we use this to our advantage? And then you can connect with an audience who also share those values and who also care about what you're doing. So yeah, I think that's super, super important. Amazing. Well, it's really great that we've got a mixture of different companies here. Obviously, you all do very different things and your focus is on different things. So I guess, what is your desired outreach? Who do you want to reach and why do you want to reach them?
Pros for us. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, is that fine? Okay, cool. No, yeah, I'm going to probably be saying this like a broken record when I answer my questions, but like it's about the writing for us at Hung Theatre, and to get ahead in a career as a writer, we need to be heard. Our plays need to be heard as much as possible, as far out as possible. So we're like, expansion for us and outreach is definitely essential. In terms of where we go, like we haven't like started touring anything yet. We're only a year into, or a year and a half now, into being a theatre company. So we haven't actually toured anything yet, but when we do, we're absolutely going to be looking further north than where we are, all the way down south, just as much as possible, just to kind of reap the benefits of all the theatres and companies that exist everywhere, and to expand our pool of kind of connections and stuff like that. And also take the artists along with us. If like we're touring a play that originated in Manchester, they're as much a part of the journey as anything else. So it'd be great to bring them along for the ride, so they can take that, they can take advantage of that opportunity as well as us. But yeah, so I mean, our aspirations in terms of as well, I think actually in the context of Northern artists, it's about kind of like our outreach, our desire to go further afield isn't about potentially highlighting and uplifting Northern artists per se, but it is something that should just happen by the by, like, because it's about normalizing our presence everywhere as opposed to just being in the north, and decentralizing London a little bit. So that's always the place that people feel like they have to go to make the big career step type thing, because there's amazing stuff going on up here. And like you were just saying about all the amazing theatre companies that are coming together, if we get more and more of them, there'll be more collaboration, more networking, more competition with London. And
because that's through doing this and through connecting with a lot of different people and meeting loads of new artists through doing Up the North. Something that's become really clear is that sometimes it does feel like even if people aren't necessarily from the north, they can connect with what I'm doing and what this is all about because they're not in the south. And they kind of feel that same frustration and that same alienation because they're not being in London and they're not making work in London, that they can connect with that, wanting their voice to be heard. And so I think it is a really big thing where theatre needs to be made not just in the north for the north, but also we can go to London, and it doesn't have to be a case of it being a massive deal or it just being, because I think at the minute it's very much like London keep to themselves in a way where a lot of their actors and their artists they use in plays often are southern, which is fine because a lot of northern artists who come into plays are northern. So I guess it's just about that integration and how that's going to come to be, and it's exciting, like so exciting to see how that's all going to come about. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
For us at NWTAC, it's our outreach is kind of a three-pronged attack. First of all, we train young people as young as 7 at NWTAC, and the youth theatre take people as young as 4. Kids coming in for a session of, regular session of acting, singing, dancing for 99p is incredible from the youth theatre. For them to kind of sustain that, and they've been sustaining that for the last 2 years, which is amazing. It's the thing that got me, and it's the reason why we kind of continued the work of the Abraham Moss Theatre and the previous directors there was the young people. It isn't as simple as, even we're talking about this north-south divide. There's a massive north-south divide in Manchester as well, a huge one, because I think that, while South Manchester has a lot of the companies there, they're fairly affluent, they can, even the Amdram Society and things, they can spend a lot of money on shows and create brilliant things. But if you just look at raw talent, the North, it matches it, definitely. And you've got kids in the North from areas of deprivation that they don't have role models in their life. You know, they're latchkey kids, or what we used to call in the 90s latchkey kids. You know, they've got, you know, they don't have money, they've got ripped trainers and things like that, but the talent these kids have got is immense. And for you to kind of lead, I've been training them for the last 20 years, and for you to kind of tell them, listen, I believe in you, I believe in the talent you've got, and I believe you can go somewhere, raising that bar, and obviously training them and talking to them about what they can achieve, realistically what they can achieve. You know, I've had kids that have trained with me that, you know, I've been invited to their graduation ceremonies because they're the first person in their family to get a degree in the arts and things like that. That's, you talk about inspiration, that inspires me to kind of keep going. And I kind of sit there and think, if NWTAC kind of give up what they do, then all those careers that we've made over the last 10 years and beyond that, where, you know, there's always going to be someone that needs that. So to continue our outreach, I want the young people, the young northern people, to know that we're in an age now where their talent is being recognized, you know. And for years it's just ludicrous that you've got southerners playing northerners on TV. I'm like, you know,
it happened recently and I was like so angry, but I won't get,
you know,
it, but
yeah,
it's just
I
like,
mean, you know, even in songs like Corrie and Hollyoaks and things like that, I'm like, you know, that I just, it baffles, it's beyond belief. So yeah, to kind of give those, we train young people, we make professionals, you know, it's a tagline that we've had, and we've been doing it for the last 10 years, and we'll continue to do so. The second part is to help companies like you know, Joe and Henry's, plus companies, you know, we all know how difficult it is to start a theatre company. We all know how difficult grant funding is, and it's a job in itself. And while you're trying to kind of produce and write and direct and get actors together and then find a venue that you kind of, you know, hedging your bets on, and you're thinking, who's going to come to watch this new piece of writing? Because don't people just want to see Grease again in the same production with the same costume for the millionth time? Who's going to come and watch this new piece of work? And there's all that stuff that comes with it, and all the ancillary jobs that just keep going and going and going, and all the associated jobs with, you know, you need a writer and a producer, a director, a cast, someone to serve coffee at the interval, all those kind of things. So we want to, you know, that's why we set up the venue. You know, it isn't about the money for us. There's a venue there, and we will help people. We say we're a solutions company. We go to somebody, tell us your vision, let's reach for the stars and see where we end. You know, let's start with that dream first before we sit there and get rid of the idea totally. So it's about the young people, it's about the theatre companies and growing northern talent in theatre, alongside doing it for the performers. We're doing it for the writers and directors and producers, because there is so much talent. It's so clever. And it's not fair that just because people have money in south of England and even South Manchester, that they're the ones that are kind of being pushed up there and we're the ones that are being forgotten about. I think the final aspect of it is from an audience point of view. We've had, as I said, we put on an array of productions with Shakespeare's pantomime just to get out there. So there's something for everyone. We have people that buy a season ticket. If you don't like a Shakespeare, you might love a panto. If you don't love the musical, you might love a play. But then again, if you're sitting there and thinking, I may as well buy a season ticket, you might go and watch something that you might enjoy. So one of the nicest compliments we had a northern audience belly laughing at Shakespeare, and it wasn't modernized, it was in the original language. And one of my friends came to watch it and he's like, you've got this audience belly laughing. I mean, it wasn't Macbeth, you know, it was a comedy, thank the Lord. So belly laughing the way through Scottish. So yeah, so they were enjoying it, and you're like, you've got them not only, you know, appreciating it and understanding it, but they're enjoying it. And this is a northern audience. You know, it's making it accessible and affordable. We all know how ridiculous the prices are everywhere else. You're a family of 4, family of 6. You want to take your family to pantomime at Christmas. You know, you're talking £150 plus parking in Manchester, and, you know, £15 for a packet of munchies and things like that. So it just keeps going and going. But to make it accessible, to have a good family night out, to get the kids putting their iPhones down and going and watching and learning, having that part of the family experience again, as I grew up with, that's our kind of inspiration, and our third kind of pronged attack for our outreach.
I think that's, especially with what you were saying about the program throughout the year that you have at NWTAC, especially from a person developing point of view, training. It's so important that they do get to experience all of that, because I've met people who are older than me, not much older than me, but 25, whatever, who didn't get Shakespeare taught to them at school properly, or who didn't get the chance to put on a Shakespeare play through school or anything like that. And especially with working class Northern artists, schools and public schools probably don't have time to put that much effort into teaching about culture and about art. And so to have something in Northwest Manchester, especially North Manchester and just in general, to have such a big array of programs going on through the year just gives them that fuel to keep them going for when they do need to be taken seriously in the future. And I think they might not realize it at the time, but when they then come to audition for drama school, or if they're auditioning for whatever, and even if they don't get into drama school, they've had the training, so when they go to a professional audition, they've got all that. And I do think there's a lack of development for working class artists in the North, especially from my point of view. It's so hard to find affordable training where you can get actual development. So yeah, love it all. I'll stop loving now. Henry, go for it.
Well, I think I just want to, I guess, echo a little bit of what Prab's saying about supporting young people. Me and Natalie both met because we were working with the youth theatre at York Theatre Royal, and both of us come from a youth theatre background. And in some ways, I feel like I learned more. Well, I definitely learned more about performance and ideas of performance when I was in York Youth Theatre than I did at university. It was a very different sort of education, and it was so important for both me and Natalie to work with young people. Vandal Factory haven't quite worked out how we do that as a company, but Nat is the youth theatre director over at Freedom Studios in Bradford, and I do freelance work still with York Theatre Royal and a couple of other theatres in Yorkshire. And we've just had a week of training in the youth theatre sector, part of the National Association of Youth Theatres. And I just think that I think the youth theatre sectors does it really well. I think we're a sector we should absolutely bang the drum, and it sounds like you guys are doing great work in Manchester as well. And yeah, like we've continued the sectors continued to make work as best as possible throughout lockdown, and has started doing summer stuff and is looking to reopen, and has been such a beacon for young people across the UK. In terms of Vandal Factory, when we want to, the audiences, I guess, to come back to the original question, what we want to reach our audiences is like, I, as a performance poet, do loads of gigs in pubs and really enjoy doing it at open mics where people generally didn't expect someone to get up and do a spoken word piece. And Nat's a big fan of pubs as well. So for us, like, performing in these unusual spaces is really important, and part of that punky DIY spirit that we want to capture. So obviously we have made work that has been performed in theatres, but we've also made work that was performed at the New Adelphi, which is this decades-old space in Hull that's had bands come through throughout the 90s and 2000s. And then we did it in an anarchist bookshop in Bristol, which sadly no longer exists, called Hydra. And as part of this new show we're making, we want it to go into pubs and community centres and festivals and outdoor spaces that ties to the themes. And there are companies like Red Ladder and Freedom Studios that are doing those networks. And for us, it's trying to reach different audiences of people and bringing that space, and not going into their space going, hey, you should pay attention to this show we've brought in. Everyone sit down and be quiet, not taking over their spaces, but feeling like we want to put something new and different into these locations and think about that and how that's exciting and different. And increasingly since 2010, as venues are constantly under threat and as funding is more insecure, actually that's sometimes the best route to make work and put it out there is to find non-traditional performance spaces. So that's sort of on our wavelength, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that, especially when you're trying to get community outreach and you're trying to go, and if you've got to play about something that you know is related to that town or whatever it might be, and you go and do it for those people who are going to feel safe in those spaces. Because I know I did a project with the Lowry called Stage Directions, which was all about outreaching to the young people of Salford who were in areas where they were deprived of the arts and where it wasn't part of the curriculum and all that kind of stuff. And the big part about that was making that community feel safe to go into a theatre, and making them feel safe enough, first of all, by doing it somewhere that they felt they were comfortable, surrounded by people who they could trust, surrounded by people who they felt were like them. Because I do think there's a massive glamorized thing over theatres, and you have to dress nice, and young people aren't welcome, or whatever it might be. And I definitely think when theatre companies like yourselves try to go out there, well, not trying, you are, they go out there and they do theatre for communities in these locations, it's amazing. And I think it's definitely a step forward in with how theatre is going to evolve, and it's so exciting that like you can just do something really theatrical or really poetic in a pub, and somebody might tell you to fuck off or whatever, or they might just want to finish their pint, but that's all part of it. And it's got its own atmosphere that you don't necessarily have to build within the writing or within the actual stuff of it, if that makes sense. But yeah,
I will say that, like, I think we do have to be conscious of these conversations of like how you go into a space, and I think there is an issue where to get their NPO funding, sort of parachuting middle class artists and theatre makers to go, I'll just go and do a little bit of outreach work in those flats over there. And it's a commonwealth of got some amazing ideas around the issues of that, which is sort of almost, they call it like sort of colonization, where middle class university educated artists go into these spaces. And I think that's an ongoing longer conversation to have, but it's just something to be conscious of. As much as it's easy to go, let's all like go and make work in pubs and community centres and libraries and in communities, like
it has to be purposeful.
I'm very conscious that that's not always it's a tick box. It can become tick box.
But, of course. And that's the worst thing you can kind of do, especially when you've got something that, if you are so proud of it or anything like that, you don't just want to be doing something for the sake of doing it. Like with yourselves, it sounds like you're doing it because it's actually going to be for that piece of what you're making, rather than it being like, oh, this is a cool thing to do. So yeah, completely agree with that. Cool. So God, it's already been half an hour. That went fast. So I kind of wanted to just put it's less of a question and more of like an open-ended thing of, I guess, just the similarities and differences that you might have faced through your own companies and through what you've been through as an artist and stuff like that. So I guess, is there anything where you feel that you might have had those similarities and differences as a theatre company? Or is that too open-ended?
I think personally that what both Joe and Henry have been saying, we can definitely take bits from that. You know, there is the difficulty of you wanting to. It's a thin line between you having passion for what it is that you do and for your people, and for the writing that you've got and the style of what you want to do, and then making that kind of materialize into something that either other people not even want but appreciate. You know, and taking that. For us, we've been going 10 years. It'll be 11 years in September, and we've been, we've got full-time staff, we've got part-time staff. We're a theatre company in North Manchester, been going 11 years, and we've never been grant funded, ever. Never been given a grant. We put the first pound into our company, and we've just made it work. But again, it's like what I was saying before. You've got so many people, and it's the worst thing. You work with this. You're in a disadvantaged area of deprivation. You work with lots and lots of kids. You do loads for the community. You should just be able to go and get a £10 million grant. I'm like, it's that simple. Just stand there. I'll just pop to Morrison's and go and get it. I'm like, it's not. It's a full-time job, and then. For the grant side of it, you've got, first of all, what we were told in the early noughties was that you've got somebody that you need a grant writer to be able, and a bid writer to be able to put on the form your passion to get it across to the people that are funding it. Now that's kind of changed, and they're saying they don't want any of the jargon. They just want you to be able to talk. I mean, you put me in a room with people that are giving out £10 million, I'm pretty confident I'll walk out with at least something, but I'm like, it's so difficult you know. So Joe, what was going to, like, you know, not putting you on the spot, but like, do you guys coming from the exchange or from the Young Exchange program, do you get any kind of funding from that? Have they supported what you've done, or you've kind of, you know, they've kind of set you up to do what you're doing and now you're doing your own thing?
I mean, they recognise that, you know, we're kind of, they are partly responsible for facilitating us even being a thing, and we're completely grateful for that. And they did offer us bits and bobs of support because, I mean, if you don't ask, you don't get, and I asked a lot.
Definitely, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want that to ever be kind of the fallback on type thing. Like, we kind of have like a safety net of the Royal Exchange. Like, we wanted to kind of go out and do our own thing. Like, initially we were discussing whether we wanted our first production last March to even be in the Exchange, or whether we wanted to deviate away from that a little bit. But they have been completely supportive in everything that we've asked for in terms of rehearsal space and stuff. And that's not even just because we have that history with the Exchange and that connection. Like, they just, through the Open Exchange network, I'm plugging the Exchange now, they offer so much for so many emerging artists in the area. And if you can take advantage of that, I absolutely recommend that you do, because it sounds similar to the things that you do with your theatre companies in offering them spaces and venue support and props and costume and things like that. Like, they have a similar system, which is just really, really supportive. So yeah.
I think that like, as I've been an artist for 10 years or so, and like theatres and venues, like gatekeepers, some of them are great at supporting artists and some of them aren't, and some of them are if you catch them on the right day. The bugbear of mine is that, like, sometimes you have to just catch that right person, the right time, the right email, and they go, oh yeah, we'll give you some space. Shouldn't be how it works. There should be a way of the way they go, this is what we offer and this is how you can apply for it and this is what we can give you. And even if it's non-monetary, but it is space and support and mentorship, that's really important. And yeah, like, I could sit here and list the companies that do it well and the companies that do it badly, but that would be pointless. But I do find that you have to sniff out the ones that will support you. And it sounds great that the Exchange are one of those companies that are really good at giving that support and being aware and open and conscious of it.
Because then it runs that risk of it being who you know and like what you know, instead of it being oh yeah, we're actually wanting to support you. Because that's what I hate about this industry sometimes, with the whole like, oh well, if you know the right person, you'll get through the right doors. And especially coming from a background like mine, where your family have nothing to do with the arts, they don't like, they love the theatre, they like watching Les Mis, but they don't know anybody in the theatre or the TV industry. And it's like, so it's all, for me, it's always been about, okay, how can I get there? Who do I know that will help me get there? And it's so frustrating, like you were saying, Henry, where sometimes it's right timing with the right person sending the right email. And it's so rare in my experience that there has been a very clear structured path of a way to develop with a specific theatre or company, like who are a big theatre, because I know I've done some things with the Lowry in the past as a younger person through their youth theatre, and then there's that awkward gap where you're not quite an established artist yet and you're still kind of early career, and there's a bit of a weird space in between. And so yeah, it's definitely, I think it's a hard one to have paths into this career, I think, but everyone sounds like they're doing an amazing job with what they do anyway to make more accessible opportunities for people, which is amazing. Yeah,
there's lots to be said as well for kind of collaboration within emerging theatre companies like ourselves. Like, I don't know what you, Henry and Prab, like your experiences with this, but like in Manchester alone, like when we started, we were worried about exactly that, like it being about who you know and not having any connections, because we started off with nothing. Like, obviously we come from the Exchange, but other than that, there was no kind of through line as to where we could go. But the support that the Manchester theatre community offers newcomers is fantastic when you're putting yourself out there online and stuff, and people help with anything and everything, from props to venue space and anything like that. So it's always been it was really nice for us starting out to come into the industry and be welcomed by a kind of extended arm by everyone who we came into contact with. Like, there wasn't anyone kind of being a bit standoffish about collaborating and sharing knowledge and experience and support in any kind of way. I don't know what your experiences with that, Henry or Grab?
Yeah, I think social media is fantastic. For there's so many, it's the drama teachers, Facebook group and stuff, and if they're doing some kind of module in a school on writing, it's perfect for something that you guys do, and you guys can maybe go in, do some kind of program, and then get some funding from the school to be able to continue what you do. But yeah, there's so many incredible things. We had a company that came in and looked at our kind of what we were putting out on social media and says, you're a content rich company. So when you've got so much going on, you're not selling anything, you're just telling people what you do. And literally it was the way I explained it to people after that company coming in. The company was called Olibo Media and Marketing. If you find them, they're absolutely incredible, and they're so passionate about what they do, But I tell people it was like planting a theatre seed and Jack waking up to this beanstalk of work in the morning. It was literally overnight. It was amazing, and that kind of carried on to help us get even more kids in and different programs. And as I said, for us, because we've been there, it's not about the money. I'm not in this to kind of we're in this to grow the arts in the north. We've had so many opportunities to kind of jump ship and go South Manchester. And it's easy, we'd have our clientele and our members would be kids that can afford to pay 4, 5, 6 times what we're charging now in South Manchester. As a business, it makes no sense to stay in the north. Having said that, the passion is there, and the sense that it makes it is that I'd feel a bit of a fraud if we moved South Manchester. We do have members from South Manchester that travel up, but the clientele that we have, we'd lose so many people. And the ethos of what we do, is making theatre accessible for our audience, for other companies, and for the youth of, and putting an arm around them saying, we got your back and you got this,
I think there was a real point for me personally when I realised it has had to try and demystify how all this worked. I was just doing pop-up little poetry stuff here and there, and then I was writing a few plays for the odd commission. But I was if I want to sort of carve this career, I need to work it out, because it feels like it's this bastion of funding and producing and networking and organizations. And for a little, I have a huge amount of privilege, but even with my sort of anxious working classness, I still couldn't quite work out how to decipher this. So I'm sure it must be even worse for people with much less privilege than myself. And I feel like I had to just have a go at it. And that's when we started looking at forming the company and looking at Arts Council funding and how companies work. And it's not as complicated as it seems. It is complicated, but it felt like we were really able to chip away, and it is stuff that or pick up, and that is from companies supporting us, being on the mentor scheme at Third Angel, who are based in Sheffield. It was being able to ring up people that we knew that were associate artists of companies and directors, being able to talk to companies like Slung Low or people at York Theatre On and go, how does this work? And they tell you, and you go, I sort of thought I knew that. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Or you just have to find that government website that explains how setting up a limited company works. And it is there, and it's annoying, but it's findable. And I do remember last year, and it must have only been last year, someone who was a few years younger than me ringing me up for advice about forming a limited by guarantee. And I was like, okay, well, here's all the stuff I've learned. And I've seen on Twitter, they were putting up going, hey, if anyone needs any advice on something, get in touch. And you have to sort of keep that networking ticking over and sharing it going, because we just need to dismantle and demystify this complex, horrible thing that's being in the arts, whatever that tag means.
Some kind of northern theatre network, I think, would be brilliant as well. Because obviously, before today, I didn't know anything about you guys. I knew Ria, and our kind of centre point is Ria, but Ria knows all of us. Yeah. So, but I know, with having a venue, Joe, you guys been going for a year, you need rehearsal space, you need venue space, you've got it, and same thing, Henry, you want to bring anything here, but we have companies that come in and say, oh, we're in York or we're in Sheffield, and I can say, well, go and see Henry, to have some kind of northern theatre network that kind of, when you're a company starting up, you can join, say, hi guys, I'd like to be part of it, and bring your company in. Everybody knows somebody, So like that, not so much as the kind of what you were saying, Rita, but if you would like to join the kind of, a Northern Theatre Network, you can just get some advice on what to do, where to go, who can help you, and step up. And I think by developing that as well, what we do while we're all in the arts, we do separate different things, So I know that I'd have somebody, if someone came to me now and says, I want to write, I can say, go and see Joe. They're in Manchester, and we got, there's the Speak thing in Manchester at Jimmy's before Jimmy shut. So I know the guy that runs Speak, so I could put you in touch with Alex and Rosie that kind of run Speak, and they've had all these, they've got really good following. And Rosie wrote a play called Narcissist in the Mirror that won all kinds of plays, and they produced it, and it's like NTD production. So it's all that kind of networking that everybody would know somebody to kind of help out. It's one of the nicest, but again, the worst things that I've ever said is whenever anybody comes to theatre, they say, you're kind of Manchester's hidden gem. And I'm like, well, it's lovely to be regarded as that. I'm like, I don't want to be a hidden gem. I want everybody to know us, where we are. People say, well, why have I not known about you? I'm like, we've spent 10 years trying desperately with no funding to keep our heads afloat, that I don't have the time to market people and say, here's where we are. But luckily things have kind of changed, and we kind of use the pandemic to the best of our knowledge and ability, to kind of get out there and network. But yeah, Ria, you might have stumbled upon a bit of a thing, to have some kind of. So once Up the North is finished, then you can continue this as a kind of Northern Theatre network.
Definitely. No, one thing that it wasn't actually related to this, but I was working on a project before I thought of Up the North, and this idea came around with a bunch of just emerging artists like myself. We all kind of got together and we're like, we just want to make this easier for ourselves. Like, we just want to make this, why is it so hard? And we all kind of had one of those moments of bonding, but also like sharing all the stuff. And we even said, like, it feels like there's a lack of this like kind of hub almost within the North, where it would be amazing to have some sort of space where people were welcome to go and create work, or to go and rehearse, and to use technology that they might not have access to at home, or the internet that they might not have access to, and facilities that, cost, like, when places charge, I don't know, like £30 for an hour to rehearse in space. It's not realistic. So I definitely get those cogs turning, and how we can put something together to make a Northern Revolution of artists.
There's a loose collective in London. I think they're called the Goodnight Out Reading Group, and they are collective, and they met at once a month to basically talk, and from a sort of left-wing perspective of theatre and in that regard. And I think it was like, read a play. But they obviously went on to Zoom during the pandemic, and I was able to dip into one of them. And with the Youth Theatre Network with NWTAC, we've been, until we paused it for the summer, but every Monday we were hosting a Zoom session. And I think that, if anything, this has shown us that we can make things a lot more accessible and lighter and easier by having this new Zoom technology, where we can go, let's have a meeting and have a chat, and definitely. Maybe there's an agenda, maybe there's a, but like if for example, if there was like the Leeds theatre network were having an event over in Leeds, I'd be like, right, okay, well, I might be able to make it, but it's a 40-minute drive, or I need to get the train over. But if it was on Zoom, bang, I can put it on after I've had my tea. And I think that maybe that's something we can look and explore in the future for these sort of.
Definitely. And I think, sorry, go on.
No, go on.
What I was going to say is just, even with like being able to, like you said, like stream stuff through Zoom, and even like through YouTube, I've discovered how to do that in the past couple of days, which has been fun. But yeah, when people can't make it to shows, or they can't make it to a meeting or a workshop, just having a webcam set up somewhere, or having it interactive in different spaces. I think Zoom has definitely opened up so many doors for so many different people and artists, and has definitely showed people how to, it's like a skill, I think, because working Zoom for creativity is so difficult and is so different. But yeah, definitely, I think it's definitely going to be a step forward rather than backwards.
I think it doesn't even have to be anything that's any big agenda or anything like that. It's literally professional theatre companies getting together at an agreed time for an hour just to have 5-10 minutes to tell everybody else what they're doing and what they're up to. Because if somebody says I'm doing this and we're doing a play centered around this or that, say, well, we can help you with that, or we've got something or something like that we can turn around and just tell each other about it, and then when you see it on Facebook, say, oh, well, this is somebody's project, and pop along to this, or and share this stuff and things like that. It's like today, you were doing the Up the North, so I shared it and told people that was on today, and then that with my circle, then people might come on and watch that, and then so if Henry was putting something on, and I know it's through his spoken word and stuff, then I know Speak and NTD Production, so then I tag them in it and say, guys, check out Henry and his stuff, and there's some kind of collaboration that, although we may not be able to do it, there's somebody else in that network that could, without any kind of agenda or trust or chairman or committee or board.
Yeah, I know, because what was the word? It's their co-creation. Is that the right thing I'm trying to get at? I think so. Rather than it being like a top bottom thing, it's all about kind of like feeding in and going into it and all working together. I think for me, that's the best way theatre and creativity can come together, when it's not title after title and person after person. It's just about solidarity, and it's just about helping each other out and supporting each other, because at the end of the day, knowledge is so powerful. And for me, I've been so grateful to anyone and everyone who's been able to give me a little bit of their nuggets of knowledge and help me out the tiniest bit. And if that could be on a bigger scale, if you have people who've been doing it for 10 years, or somebody who's only been doing it for a few months but they've got all these fresh ideas, for me, that's one of the best ways work can be created, when you've got a mixture of perspectives, of people, of knowledge in a space, all putting two together. And yeah, just love it. It's a great one, isn't it? It's a great industry. Yeah, cool. So as my last little thing, we've kind of got onto it really, about wishful thinking. So what advice, anything would you give to Northern artists who are wanting to possibly start their own company, who are thinking about creating work, even being involved with your companies? What are your hopes, and what would your advice be?
If you want to get involved with Hung Theatre, head to hungtheatre.com and sign up to our newsletter for the latest.
A little plug. I love it. Do all the plugs.
But no, I mean, advice, I suppose. I think we mentioned this briefly, but marketing is so important and so useful because it's the primary way people hear about your opportunities and events nowadays. So don't underestimate that. Definitely put the work in to make sure that the word strategy is quite a scary word, and it's kind of overused, but a strategy in place to know what your marketing is going to look like and what it's going to be, who's going to manage it, because it is so important. And I think sometimes people do underestimate it, and it does have a knock-on effect on revenue or audience, etc., etc. So I think that's a big thing. Shout out to Lewis, who does ours. He's a legend. And then I think another thing that I've taken from being a producer at Hung Theatre, like I've already kind of touched on, is if you don't ask, you don't get. And the worst thing that you can do, don't be so afraid of being told no that you don't ask the question in the first place, because the only person that you're hurting there is yourself, because you're depriving yourself of potential opportunity for a rehearsal space, NWTAC. You said it better than me earlier, but I'm reading.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really important, because like we say, people are so up for sharing knowledge, and if they can, they will. And then the final thing, I think it's a big part about what Hung Theatre is about, because like I said earlier on, because we're primarily writers and we rely on everyone else. Not that we rely, I mean, we do, but we also encourage more collaboration with everyone else, because we want our writing to be as exciting as it can possibly be. So we don't take them for granted, and we treat them with as much respect as anyone else. So I suppose the advice on that is be the theatre company that you would want to work with. Because if you don't, and if people have a negative experience with you, word will get round. People do talk about that kind of thing.
Wishful thinking, same thing. Plug. If you want to get involved with NewTAC, at NewTAC1 on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Insta. So yeah, just give us a shout, drop us an email, and we'll get together either on Zoom or in person. And then yeah, we do a lot of training, not just of people on stage, but our whole kind of we're incredibly grateful to have such an amazing volunteer basis. So we've got our front of house team that are all trained, but they're all volunteers, like Stockport Plaza. We've got our guys that work with our technical director, and our crew, they're all trained, but they're all volunteers. We've got sets that need painting and props that need making, and people wanting to train as on sound and lighting and stuff. So yeah, it's literally anything theatre wise. So yeah, get involved. It doesn't matter how old you are, what experience you have, give us a shout. I'd say, as I said, because we've never been grant funded to kind of keep going after 11 years, and people always say, how'd you do it? What there's no great secret to it. It's I'll use my time once I've directed a show. I'll be sat there watching the audience. If they're not engaged with something, if they're not reacting, if they're not laughing, if they're not along with it and part of the journey, I know that I'm failing and there's something that I've missed or not communicated. And the same thing at the interval. While I see someone stood there, sat there chatting, I'll just kind of walk around the interval, pick up on little bits, and people might come over to you, but I'm like, kind of rightly or wrongly eavesdropping on conversations. If they're like, I really like that bit, I didn't like that, it's telling me what I can do better, going forward. You'll always have the people that'll shake your hand and on the way out and tell you how brilliant something was. But I always find it valuable that people say, I love that, but I didn't really go for that. I think they're, again, going back to your nuggets, they're brilliant things. Having been gone started in 2009 and getting to this point, you will, that people only see the tip of the iceberg. They say, oh, you've got a venue that you've created the old Tizer factory into an 84-seat theatre. You've got sets going up and down the country and thousands of costumes and all this equipment. I'm like, you have no idea of what's underneath that iceberg. You have no idea the amount of times that I kind of sat at home when a show didn't sell, when I first wrote our first TIE play and it lost £1,200 in its first week, and I was devastated and cried myself to sleep. Don't be afraid to fail, because it's only your first attempt and you will kind of get there. And it's a work hard, play hard thing. Dust yourself off. It's a bad day at the office. Just like people have bad day at the office, our theatre, our stage is our office. Dust yourself off, come back in, start at 10 o'clock and not before. And then, continue doing what you do, because somewhere, someone will help you out. And when you're not expecting it, you will get a break. And we're incredible. I've got a really thick Manc accent, and I'm loving being from the north and continuing doing what we do. And I'm super proud of it. And I think you guys should be as well, so keep doing what you do, people.
Prav, that was so inspiring. I'm so
put me in a room. Put me in a room
with
Put me in the room with the people that give us millions, and I'll share it out.
I'm gonna go and change the world. I guess just the thing that I've thought about this a lot actually before we came on this Zoom chat, and for a company that want to start up and people want to make work, you've got your people and you want to start creating. I think just keep exploring and experimenting and challenging yourselves and not limiting yourselves, going, what happens if we decide we want to work with musicians, or what if we want to work in these spaces, what if we want to make a show about this, and really allow yourself to be free and different and unusual and experiment, and don't tie yourself down to one thing. Having said that, I now want to say this weird oxymoron where whatever you do, try and, I think, do it right if you're going to commit. So I use an example is, say you want to go, let's explore and experiment with this in this space. Well, understand that you will get in that space between 10 and 4 o'clock. Understand, if you're going to pay people, you're going to pay people. Understand whose role is what within that process. If you want to contact a venue, don't do what I feel like I did for a long time, which is go, hey, I'm sort of like an artist and I sort of want to do some work. Go, hi, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. And the building might come back and go, great, well, we can't offer you X and Y, but we can offer you Z. Be clear. There's a guy I know that has just moved to York, and hope he doesn't watch this, but he was like going to go to Edinburgh this year. And I remember being like, oh, why do you want to go to the Edinburgh Fringe this year? He's like, oh, just to go along. I was like, you need to know, like, why do you want to take a show to the Fringe? Why do you want to tour the show? Why do you want to make a show with musicians? So I feel like experiment and play and have fun, but do it professionally. So it's a weird oxymoron. And I hope that makes sense. That's my only advice. But yeah, change the world. I feel like I want to be old and then change the world like Prob's doing, and everything will be amazing and brilliant.
I think everyone in their own unique way here is definitely changing the world, and being inspiring. So yeah, but yeah, thank you all for being here. I think that brings us right up until time, basically. So yeah, thank you so much for giving me your time this afternoon and for coming and having a chat. It's been lovely. Feeling all inspired now, and I want to go and make something. Once again, if you quickly tell people where they can find you. Plug.
So Vandal Factory, we're just a little bit quiet at the moment just because we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and we're just working out exactly what we do with all that. But if you want to find us, we're on Facebook and Twitter, Vandal Factory. I'm Henry_Raby on Twitter, and I can't remember Nat's hashtag. I think it's at Nat Quatermass, but we tweet a lot more from there. So probably best to find us on that. But yeah, I mean, Google exists, so that's why I think.
Yeah, hungtheatre.com or at hungtheatre on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Feel free to drop us a line about anything, or me personally. I can't remember my Twitter handle. It's just my name, but with some numbers. But I think it's in one of the tweets that we have posted.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at NWTAC1 on Twitter and Instagram. Northwest Theatre Arts Company on Facebook. Put us in. We should just jump up on Google, and we're on there. I'm Prab, I think 0126 on Instagram or whatever. You'll find me. We're actually we've been used this whole time. We're lucky in the fact that we've got our own venue, so it's all been refurbed, it's all been sanitized. We're all ready, and we've been open for the past couple of weeks. So we're kind of hopefully thinking one step ahead of the government, but with all social distancing and everything like that. So theatre's not going to stop. Our light is on and is back on. So let's do this, people.
Definitely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I'll go and let you get back on with your days. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
With you
No
all.
worries.
Meet you both.
See ya.
Take care.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
No problem, darling. Top
for
stuff.
joining. No worries. What's going to happen now is there's going to be a little bit of a break, and we will be joined back at 4:30 with the wonderful Craig Parkinson. So keep on, come back in an hour, and I will see you then. Hello everyone, welcome back from that lovely little break. I hope you enjoyed the session we had before with all those amazing theatre companies. Thank you so much for everyone who took part in that. Now we have an amazing session with the one and only Craig Parkinson, who is an actor who's had an amazing career for the past 20 years, and also he's a host of his own podcast, the Two Shot Pod. You can tell I'm nervous, can't you? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Craig in, and we'll let Craig do the talking. Okay, so whenever Craig's ready, you can turn your camera on. Hello, how you doing? Oh, you muted.
There we go. We're good.
There you are.
Good.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
It's fine. I'm not Adrian Dunbar. It's fine. He can't work Zoom to save his life. So, yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for giving us some time this afternoon. Really, really appreciate it.
It's no bother.
So anybody who's watching, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments section on the live stream, and we'll just ask them as we go. But it's so weird just to say, because I listen to your podcast and I'm usually just hearing your voice.
Yeah.
So it's like now strange seeing you. But it's great.
We can blank the video if you want. If you want to make it more comfortable, that's fine.
No, absolutely not. Lovely. So, do you want to give a little bit of an introduction, just to anybody out there who might not know who you are, who might have been living under a rock?
Oh, I don't know. I'm Craig Parkinson. I'm an actor originally from Blackpool. Mostly work on television. And host a quite popular podcast over the last 3 years, and that's
all right. Yeah,
I don't know what to say.
That's fine. Thank you. I guess I'll just start with where you started then. So Blackpool. Tell us about that. How was it kind of growing up in Blackpool? How was that related to your like journey as an artist? How did you find it getting into the arts from there?
Quite accessible when I was starting it, because I was born in Blackpool, and with my dad's work we kind of moved around a bit. So we started in Blackpool, and then we moved to Warrington for a bit, and then my mum didn't like Warrington very much, so we ended up moving back to Blackpool, and then we moved to the borders of Blackpool and St Anne's.
Lovely place.
And then I went to secondary school in Ansdell, which is you've got Lytham here, you've got St Anne's there, you've got Blackpool there. It's like slap bang in the middle.
Yeah.
And as everybody who certainly around my time knows about acting and stage management, there was an amazing college called Blackpool and Fylde College.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be an actor, it was where you aspired to go before you would go to drama school.
Right.
Because the likes of David Thewlis went there and John Sim went there, who were people who I was looking up to when I was young.
Yeah.
I'm still young. Ish. And so that was the main aim, was to sort of get through high school, to get there and do at least 2 years there, and then move to London to do drama school, because that was the path that they'd taken. And I thought, well, it just goes to show you that people from, even though like John was from Nelson, David was from around sort of my area, but around that sort of Lancashire way, this was the path that seemed to be chosen. So it seemed to be the best place to go. And it turns out it was. It really was. It was incredible training prior to drama school, because you were at least 5 days a week, solid, 8 till, sometimes 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Just grafting and reading, training, failing loads, and mixing with everybody who wanted to do something in the business, as opposed to like if you're at high school, if you're lucky enough to have drama at your high school, you know, that's once a week.
Yeah.
And it's a mixture of dossers, people that wanted to try and chat up girls,
Yeah.
and the, you know, the very, very small handful
Yeah.
who wanted to do something with it. But then you're thrust together with all these people who really were passionate about it. So it kind of it changed completely.
Yeah,
It was,
definitely.
yeah, it was full on. It's great.
Yeah, I feel like that's the best place to be, especially before drama school, because it prepares you for that intensity that you're then going to go into. You surround yourself by people who are also focused. Yeah, how was drama school for you? It was Mount View, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a mixed bag, if I'm
Okay.
honest. It was tough because originally I got my grant turned down.
Wow, okay.
And it was like my last hope. There's no way I could have, or my parents could have afforded to have put me through drama school. Not at all. And I was on the very, very last year where everything was falling apart with regard to grants for this type of education, which, you know, is still something I'm incredibly sad about, because the amount of messages and emails I get every month, you know, I don't know what to do. I've got this place and I need to raise the money. Yeah. And I keep saying, I do say it sometimes on the podcast when it's relevant, you know, drama school isn't the only avenue that we can explore now with discovering new talent. You know, there's amazing casting directors like Shaheen Baig and Des Hamilton, who are very, very well known for, I'm not sure if I like the term street casting, because it's not like that. It's not like people find them in the street. You know, Des and Shaheen would go to schools or would go to colleges, and they would seek people out in certain areas. And, you know, Thomas Turgoose is such a prime example back in the day when they did This Is England film. And it's all there. But yes, I got turned down. So I had to write to my MP, and my deputy head of my high school wrote an amazing letter for me, and I got it. But how was drama school? I don't know. I still think about it a lot. I don't know. There was moments I enjoyed. The social aspect was fantastic. I had certain tutors, such as Brian Asprey, who were at the time baffling. And then years later, you go, oh my God, wow, that's what he meant. But that's what the thing I say to younger students at the time, you just throw everything in your backpack, right? Just throw it all in. You don't know when you're going to use it, and it might not be relevant at this time. And you go, oh my God, even now, I still pull things out. I go, fuck, yeah, my God, that's exactly what they meant. And now I can use that, because I've got the tools that I need. But you're just constantly building your portfolio. And I don't mean a portfolio of work. You're just building yourself up. So you've got all the tools that you need when things come along. And you don't know when things will come along, because you don't know what type of work you're going to be doing. So your tools for theatre are going to be very, very different to the tools you need when you're in front of a camera, whether that be television or film. Or podcasting. So
definitely. Yeah, amazing. And I guess, like you said, drama school's not the only route to get into acting. It's not the only way in, because for a lot of people it's so hard. Like, I know myself, I've been auditioning for 3 years and still big fat no, getting places step by step, but it's tricky. And so I guess, what would you say for those people who might not want to take that drama school route? What have you seen happen? What would you say would be the best alternative, or I guess just general advice?
Well, because of the way that things are at the moment, especially now, and it has been before this year, which has just been a complete shit show.
A little bit, yeah.
Everything is on the internet. Do you know what? Write a letter to a casting director. write a letter to somebody, a handwritten letter, because I guarantee not a lot of those will be falling. I mean, they will do now because I've said it, but that won't be falling through their letterbox. And there is nothing nicer and personal to receive a letter. We don't write letters enough. I'm not just talking about the industry or for work. We don't write letters enough, and letters are beautiful. And you can fancy up the greatest email that you're the right person for this part, to this casting director, and it will just get slung away in the trash. But if you write a letter, a handwritten letter, I think that'll make all the difference, because it's all about standing out, and it's all about timing. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, definitely. Because I guess especially with my generation, who are younger, who use technology a lot more, who are constantly on social media, it just seems like the easiest way to go about it. And you're constantly told like, oh, you need to brand yourself online, and your brand's all about your social media and all that type of stuff. And
no, I think that is it's a hide into nowhere early on. Once you're established, of course, then yes, there's certain things that you should and have to do, because you have to promote your show. And nowadays, the best way to do that, apart from the endless interviews and going on This Morning and BBC Breakfast and all those things that are fab and they're fun, to promote. The thing is, TV shows get cancelled nowadays, and it's the audience, it's the fans that resurrect these shows, and social media plays a huge part in that.
Yeah.
And it can't be underestimated. But there is no point trying to build some sort of quote unquote brand if there's no catalogue of work there. It's a hiding for nothing, and a lot of pain and smashing your head against a brick wall. And this business it's hard enough, you need to give yourself a bit of a break. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, going back then, so once you'd done your 3 years, trained, graduated and all that jazz, did you go back to Blackpool? Did you stay in the south for a little bit? What kind of...
No, I stayed in London, and I was still trying to figure out where I fitted in, because that's what you have to do, to figure out where you fit in and what. And this sounds really crude, but you're a product. You have to figure out what it is you've got over somebody else and what you can sell, because there's so many incredible people who do something brilliant. But if you go, oh, well, actually, I think I can do that. And if you're being realistic, be realistic at the end of the day. So I had to figure out what it was. And, I'm still figuring it out a little bit, because we all are. And that's the joy of our industry. But I left drama school, and a week later, I was getting a wig fitting for a musical in the West End. Now, bearing in mind, I have a very low voice.
Okay.
And I can barely hold a tune. Now, to call myself a singer would be, no, I can't sing at all. I thought it was a joke. I went from earning, X amount at Pizza Hut in North London as a part-time job to earning, I think, nearly £400 a week in the West End when I was 21.
Nice.
Which was, it was 1997. It was a huge deal. But to say I was intimidated for 9 months every day to be on this job, knowing full well, I mean, we talk about imposter syndrome a lot. Yeah. Oh, I was a complete imposter, and they knew. Everybody else knew. He's 6'4.5". He's got a low voice. He can't sing at all. There was times where I even mimed, because I just couldn't sing it. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But it was a
So you make
starting.
it.
It was a starting, but yeah, exactly. It was a starting point to go. Yeah, I can't do this. Why are people giving me this opportunity? This is not for me at all. And then I moved on to doing little bits of episodes of comedy on telly, guest spots and episodes. And then I got a series, and that kind of built. And then I was built, because comedy is like my first love. And I thought, yes, comedy is always for me. I'm a child of Laurel and Hardy, and this is the way. And then all of a sudden, a very good friend of mine dropped out of a drama on ITV.
Right.
And I only found this out after, by the way. And then I was offered to audition for it. And I went to audition going, what are they saying me for? This is ridiculous. Anyway, I went and then I got it. And from that moment on, my career completely just turned on its head. And I started getting offered much, much darker roles, drama roles, improvisational led drama, which are very few and far between, but when they work, they're incredible, but you've got to work with the right people. So everything changed, and it still changes now, you know.
I feel like that's an amazing way to have it be in your career, to be able to go from different thing to different thing and trying and experimenting with new stuff and new roles and everything. And I mean, you've had an amazing career looking back through everything, really, which is, it's so inspiring to see, especially from somebody who started in the North, you know, born and bred, and then has just skyrocketed and had such an amazing career doing loads of different roles. It's definitely inspiring to see. But yeah, talking about being in the North and stuff,
Yeah.
what's your opinion on kind of like because for me, I don't think regional theatre gets enough credit sometimes. I feel like it's either south or nothing sometimes. So I guess that's only me seeing it from a very young emerging perspective. So for you to have all the experience you've got, I guess, how do you see that, and what's your outlook on it?
Well, I tend not to go to the theatre that much, if I'm honest, especially in the South. I tend to be disappointed a lot. And I see, look, people steal off everybody all the time, which is absolutely fine. But when people steal and they don't even camouflage it in any way, because one of my sort of big mentors is Simon McBurney from Complicity, and I was very lucky enough to work with them for around a year, and we went pretty much around the world, bar America, and it was a real eye-opener to becoming a family in the theatre. We would eat together, we would play together, we would perform together. Everything was just, we were all as one. We would all sort of break off into little groups, but we were all one. And there's no other theatre experience like that. And I think what certain theatres, regional theatres, do is that they champion things like that people come together. Certainly places like the Exchange and West Yorkshire Playhouse, to name but two, obviously, that need our support during this time. But I when theatre knocks you sideways, either as an audience member or as someone on stage or behind the scenes, there's really nothing like it, because it's just happened. It's that moment. You'll never ever get that back. It's extraordinary. I probably should do more. I'm probably terrified of doing more, which is another reason why I probably should do it. Yeah, it's yeah, I've gone off on such a tangent. I've completely forgotten your question.
Fine. It was about regional theatre, but I'm pretty sure you've hit the nail on the head.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've got plenty of time if you did want to go and jump in and terrify yourself. But yeah, what I'm going to do is quickly just look on YouTube to see if anybody's had any questions.
Okay.
Let me have. Yeah, we'll talk about the podcast for a little bit, if that's all right with you. So Charlotte Tilley has asked, what have you learned from doing Two Shot Podcast?
Oh, how long have you got? If I'm really honest, I've learned everything. I've learned more in the 3 years doing the podcast about myself, about constructing and navigating conversation, about listening more, how to really listen, how to make sure things don't become... One of my worries about starting the podcast was that it became in any way narcissistic, which is why pretty much all the time I deflect any questions that come back on me. Because I hear so many one-on-one interviews where, and not just on podcasts, this happens on radio, my ear is completely sonically tuned now, and I can hear when people are being disingenuous or narcissistic on the radio or a podcast, and it immediately, I switch out completely. So I'm really conscious about that. So I think over the years I've really learnt not to do that, but there's a fine line, because you don't want to fake any sort of persona. You want to, because people can sniff it out. They can hear a lie, they can hear it. I can, and our audience are so perceptive and intelligent. So I've just been learning that, and I started it when I was 40, and you think, oh well, I'm an actor now, that's what I do, and I get to 40 and I thought I've learned everything, and I wanted to learn something else, and it's been the most incredible learning experience, and continues to be, even though we've had such a long break since May, to start off last week and dive in with a 2.5 hour conversation with Lenny James was quite emotional, but it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, because you get to a point where you go, oh God, can I do this? Can I do this after all this time? But yeah, I not to say I love it more than acting, because it doesn't pay me anything. But what it doesn't pay me financially, it pays dividends in so many more ways, and in a much more human aspect.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because that's when I first started listening to it, I didn't really know what to expect from it, really. Someone suggested I should have a listen, and I was like, okay. But I love that it's not about, say, when you have actors on, it's not about their work. And like you say, you can find it on Google if you want to find it out. And it's so refreshing and nice to just hear someone talk about their life and about their values and have a laugh and just be a human.
But look, let's face it, on paper, it sounds fucking awful. If you've got an actor talking to another actor, I couldn't think of anything worse. And that's why I don't have any rules apart from, if there's an actor coming on, we tend not to go down the job route, because that's part of our job. When we do press, we're finishing off a job, and you have to do that, and it's kind of dull for us. What's much more interesting is to delve into the human aspect and who they are as people, and their past and their struggles and their triumphs, and also the other rule was, that was my thing, I always give everybody, whoever they come on, full editorial control. So then we're free to talk openly and honestly, and they can relax. They know this isn't word for word a Guardian interview that's going to be taken out of context.
Yeah.
Or they've got stuff that they went, oh God, I shouldn't have said that, but I was really relaxed. Or, you know, I'd had a chamomile tea, or I'd had a whiskey, and I was just felt like really open. I could speak to somebody.
Yeah.
I would never want to abuse that power at all. And it seems to work.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I think the trust that you build up with the people that are on it, it's so clear throughout the interview. Well, not the interview, but the chat, because it's just, they are so open, but you can just tell there's so much trust there.
Even with people who don't know me, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I feel really, really lucky.
Lovely. Well, I'll pop back on quickly to the YouTube,
Okay.
and have a quick look through the questions. So Luke Martin has asked you, when working on television shows, how much are you able to bring to the character yourself? How much of it's decided by the writer or showrunners to fit the overall story?
Well, that depends on part to part, job to job, pretty much. But, you know, when you're either auditioning, if you're auditioning, you go in first of all and you're giving them a taster of what you would interpret this part. So you can, before they've ever said anything, you go in and go, right, okay, this is how I interpret this and what I would bring to it. And then they sort of go, right, okay, that's interesting, you've done that. Well, let's tweak this. How about this? And they throw things at you. And that's up to you to take on board and agree or disagree. You know, at the end of the day, you need to be happy working with people as much as they need to be happy working with you. And of course, then when it gets to a point where you're lucky enough not to audition, then they know your back catalogue of work and they go, oh, well, he or she will bring X, Y, and Z to this. So I know what they've done in the past and I know how they're going to hit it. So it really does depend from job to job. I think the best thing is to be as open as possible, but to know in your gut how you see things, because you want to be a sponge, but you also need to know your worth.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's a balance. It's just finding a balance. No one should ever tell you exactly what to do, where to raise your hand or give you line readings, unless you're wildly off the mark. But again, it's just about being open and just being decent and listen to people and learn, because you never stop learning. That's the great thing. You'll be learning off the DOP, off the grip, off the makeup artist. You'll be learning off everybody constantly all the time.
Yeah. Amazing. And how did you, because for me, where kind of my experience, I found that theatre is more accessible for development, and I found that being able to get into youth theatre and doing shows and stuff is a bit more accessible. So I guess, how would you suggest to anyone going about getting into TV, and how, if there's any advice you have for that?
I don't know. It's a question that comes up a lot to me. And I get emails a lot about it, to be honest, via the podcast. It's tricky. There's no two ways about it. It is really tricky. But I'll go back to writing a handwritten letter to certain casting directors will make you stand out. And even if you say to people, or even to, I don't know, producers in the North, or Warp Films, who fly the flag for working class talent and undiscovered talent. Write people out and just go, is there any chance I can have a cup of tea for 10 minutes? I just need to pick your brains. And I'll be honest, I'm just lost. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. X, Y, and Z's happened. This is a bit about me. I totally understand you're busy. If you've got 10 for a brew, that would be incredible, because what you will gain in that 10 minutes and what these people can give you and with their knowledge might just help you a little bit. But Oldham Theatre Workshop still going, isn't it?
Yeah, kind
Is
of.
it?
Not
Kind
how
of.
it used to. I think now it's you have to pay to go, whereas in the past I know it was more of a you could just drop in. I think I'm not
But
sure.
it's not. It shouldn't be an extortionate amount of money.
No, I don't think it is.
No.
I'm sure. I think it's more of like a. I think it's just like a company now,
Right.
which is still just as good.
But Nottingham Theatre Workshop.
Yeah.
Still going.
Royal Exchange.
Royal Exchange. The amount of talent, young talent, new talent that these places nurture are incredible. But I just think you need to start digging a little deeper, and sometimes get off social media and get into your area and see what's going on. Are people doing a play reading? Can you get involved? Or can you, if you can't get involved, can you sit and watch? Or can you learn about the process? If you're not directly a part of it, if you want to be an actor, there's certain things that you can do on the peripheral that will keep you in good stead. It's all about listening and watching and learning all the time.
Definitely, I agree. Lovely jubbly. So we've got another question. This one is from Liam Watson, who was very happy that you retweeted him, by the way.
Thank you, Liam.
Yeah. So we've got, do you still think it's necessary for Northern actors to go to London in order to have a successful career?
No, 100% not. No, not at all. Look at what is happening, within the North. There are so many television production companies that are based in the North. Look at Red Productions. Everything is filming in the North. It always has been, right back from, Cracker and Clocking Off. Back in the day, you don't remember Clocking Off, do you?
No, not going to pretend.
Watch Clocking Off.
Okay.
Is, I think I'm right in saying, one of Paul Abbott's first seminal dramas. And it was a real game changer, because there was a beautiful through line, but it focused on a different character every week, and you saw their journey within this world. Amazing stuff. But it's all happening. I mean, I was in Manchester pretty much for 12 months on 2 productions last year, back to back. There's so much going on. You don't have to go to London to work. You don't have to go to London to train. There are incredible casting directors in the North, and there's writing scholarships in the North. The Bruntwoods in the North, that propels fantastic talent. My friend Rebecca Callard, she didn't win, but it was her first play that she wrote, and she was a runner-up, and that just lifted her, and now she's adapting that for screen. She's got an agent. You've got Andrew Sheridan, who is another Bruntwood prizer, just had his second play, I think, on at the Exchange before lockdown. No, it's all there. Don't think that you have to go and spunk a load of money on training, for want of a better phrase. In London, you'll be paying extortionate amounts of money for training, and you'll get yourself in debt, and you've got a rent to pay. You'll have to subsidize that with working part-time. And look, it's tough enough. Everything's so tough, but like your route will be your route. Yeah, it's a minefield. I'm not going to lie, but you just have to try and navigate your way through it without losing limbs.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I love listening to the Two Shot podcast, especially when, you know, you're getting your rejections and you're like going through all that stuff and you're like, why? And listening to people's journeys from where they've come from to some people not going through drama school and hearing how they did it. And everyone's journey is so different. No person's is the same.
No.
But yeah, it's definitely refreshing to hear that it's not all about the going to London.
But I think even more so now. I was talking to somebody a couple of nights ago, and usually drama schools are taking, you know, between 20 and 25 ish.
Yeah.
And now they're taking 10.
Wow.
You know, this is going to have a big impact on every industry. And don't even get me started about the A-level results.
Oh.
Next question.
Yeah. Moving on. So let's have a look. So. Okay. So Salterby has asked, was there a moment with the Two Shot podcast that you knew you struck gold with it? Either a moment where you were recording or a specific episode?
Hi, Sol. No. I constantly... No. I think if you ever think that with your work, whatever that may be, whether it's a podcast or you're acting or you're writing or you're a spark, you're backstage, you're in management, whatever it is, you get relaxed. I don't want to be relaxed. I want to keep striving to be better. And even more so now, certainly over the last 3 years, is to find more skills. And I used to be very embarrassed to call myself an interviewer because I didn't feel that I had the right to do that. But the thing is, I am an interviewer. That's what I do. I just go about it in a different way to a structured Q&A interview as any sort of journalist would. I just don't do that because a great interview is a conversation and it should be a conversation. So no, I'm constantly excited and surprised because I don't know how this conversation is going to go because it's one take. It's a one take organic interview. And as I said before, I was very nervous, even though Lenny is a really good friend who I've known for almost 10 years. We don't see each other as much as we do because he's more or less based in the States and obviously I'm in the UK. And having had, I didn't realize how long it was. So it was mid-May since the last episode went out. And you've got to remember, this is a show that was going out pretty much on a weekly basis. Yeah. We've built up a huge fan base and been fortunate enough to win awards. So to have mid-May off to up until a week ago, it was a week ago, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified whether I still had it, whether I could structure it and navigate it in the way that I wanted to, that it didn't sound forced, that it sounded natural, it didn't patronize the audience, it certainly didn't patronize the guest. And then after I came off after 2.5 hours, I was really buzzing. Because I knew that it was a really honest and true conversation. That's all I ever want. That's all I do. Yeah.
And I've watched part 1, not got around to part 2 yet, but it was such an open conversation, and it was just nice to listen to. And God, he's done so much amazing stuff, and he's just a great person.
He really is. He really is. I was that
more than me.
So thrilled that we managed to tie it down, because we've been talking about it since it started.
But also, it's important for you to obviously have had a break during that time, and to give yourself that, to just not have to do it and not be committed to it.
The thing is, I love it. I love it. I love it more than anything. It gives me, not only does it give me structure, but it just, I don't want to say it gives me purpose, but it gives me some sort of purpose, not just a person, but I don't know, I do feel a huge responsibility, having gained the listenership that we have. That people expect it, but they're also very kind and warm when people know that we have to have a little break, because it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
We get support from the listeners financially, but between myself and my producer, I have to book all the guests, whether I know them or not. I have to track them down. I don't throw it out there on social media, because I feel that is quite a bullyish tactic, and it embarrasses people. You want to go through the right channels, but you don't want to go through agents, because you kind of don't want them getting involved. It needs to be. But look, I'm in a privileged position, because being such an established podcast as we are, I think I've had 2 people say no. No, 3. I've had 3 people say no in 3 years, for very, very acceptable and personal reasons, which I completely respect. But
yeah, you've had that over 100 and odd episodes, so
128.
Yeah, mental. There's so many. Lovely. I'll just pop back quickly to see if anybody else has popped any more questions. Let's have a look. So we've got another question that says, how do you deal with self-doubt as an actor and facing rejection, which I'm sure you get all the time? Ask that question, but what would your approach be?
Well, you've just got to roll with it. It never goes away, because you're constantly, and you should be, I think you should be constantly questioning yourself. There's a fine line, because you want to be relaxed, but you want to throw yourself into it, and you want to keep learning, and you want to still be the sponge for everybody. It's something that comes up again and again, not just with sort of my career, but with everybody's career. How do you deal with it? I don't know if you do deal with it. You go with it day to day, job to job, moment to moment. And the thing is, I always say to people and to myself is, if you're going through one of those moments, I think it's really important not to repress it, or to throw it aside, or put it in a cabinet and lock the key, and because it's still there. It's not going away, is it? It's still there. And if you repress and you press, it's going to be Mount Vesuvius, and it's going to come out more powerful, and you can't possibly control that at all. So what I'm learning to do, and sometimes failing, is to sit with it. Take your time. If we're having a bad day, or we're having moments of self-doubt, sit with it and just go, okay, well, this is how it's going today, and it's not fine, and I'm upset, and I'm not happy that this is what's going on, but I'll sit with it. and then we'll see how it is tomorrow.
Mm.
And 9 times out of 10, it starts to, slowly fragment, and you can get some clarity on the situation, and then that's when you can deal with it, when you've got some clarity. So I suppose it's a very personal thing, but I would say sit with those feelings. Try to not sit within your own mind, and breathe. Always breathe.
Yeah, breathing's the best way forward.
Yep.
Definitely. And I guess for me as well, I find that when you're in a better state of mind as a human, not just as an actor, if you're looking after yourself day to day and you're taking space and time for yourself, then when rejection does come, you are able to do what you just said and take a step back from it, sit with it, and then move forward.
Well, look, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Rejection just hurts, full stop, especially when you put your heart and soul into something and you go, I can just see me playing this part. This is going to be it just hurts. But you know what? If you're not wanted, you're not wanted. And that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all been there, and we will continue to be there at certain times throughout the career. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, definitely. Lovely. Well, we've got a couple more questions that I'll quickly get through. So we've got, what would you say your biggest triumph is in life? Maybe a role. Big old question.
Getting through today at the moment, just getting through day to day is I'm really chuffed with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really think like that. If you're talking about career, I don't really think like that. I think I'm really honored and proud to have been in some incredible dramas and comedies and theatre productions in my career, and I don't take it for granted at all. Certainly not now, over the last few months, where our industry is, for all intents and purposes, on its knees. But prior to this, I never took it for granted. I think, nor do I think, oh, what a triumph.
Yeah.
I'm constantly judging myself and questioning myself and striving to be better and work harder. But you work as hard as you can with the material that you're offered, and you want to do something different and show something different, but maintain self-respect, dignity, and wit. Try to take things with a pinch of salt as much as you can. Humor has got me through the best and worst of times, and touch wood, hopefully it'll continue to do so.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's the question.
Yeah, it does, 100%. And kind of the last thing that I've been asking people throughout the past couple of days during the festival is, what would your hopes be for the creative industry, for maybe the next generation of creatives or artists in the North? If you could have loads of wishful thinking, what would your aims or inspiration be?
What I would want is for doors to be open for education, that whatever people want to do, certainly within our industry, within the arts, is for everyone to at least have the chance to be educated and to learn and to follow the dream of what they want to do, because no door should be shut to anybody. Things are changing. We're seeing things change. We were seeing things change before lockdown. I have a worry we may have gone back a few steps purely because of this. But I think if we march in the right direction and, people talk, people carry on having conversations, but it's not good enough just to have the conversation. Action needs to happen. Things need to be done.
Yeah.
And just carry on, and we can smash the glass ceiling and everybody can do what they need to do.
Yep, amazing. Well, thank you so much for
It's a pleasure
coming on today and having a chat and answering some questions. It's been really, really lovely having you on and for you to support the festival and everything. So thank you. And I'll let you get back on with the rest of your day.
I'm going to clean the kitchen and do some cooking for tea. Ria, take care. All the best. Take care. And thank you, everybody, for your questions. That was lovely. Cheers. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya. Wasn't that just lovely? I managed to get through most of your questions. Apologies if I haven't been able to answer them all. I hope you all enjoyed that. I know I certainly did. And with that brings us to the end of the festival. So thank you to everyone who's supported, who's watched, who's taken part, all the artists who have been involved. I can't thank you enough for your time and your energy and your hard work that you've put into all the pieces. Like I said yesterday, not all the artists have had a lot of time to prepare. Some people had the week, some people had some days, and so thank you for the work that you put in. I have made yesterday and I will be making today public if it's not already. So if you missed it, you can go back and watch. There's timestamps in the description of all the different parts because it is like a 9-hour thing. So if you want to watch it in chunks or specific things, that's all detailed there for you. Thank you to everyone who's donated. We've raised over £200 in the last couple of days, which is so overwhelming and unbelievable. And I cannot express how grateful I am to everybody who's been able to. And if you've not, thank you for supporting through watching and through sharing on social media. It's been a massive help. And I think that's everything. Hopefully we were able to, well, not hopefully, we were able to uplift people, to celebrate Northern artists. We've had some amazing discussions about Northern theatre and Northern artists, and I hope that we can continue this discussion, which we will be doing. I've got lots of plans for Up the North, so it's not just going to be this one-time occurrence. We've got lots of stuff, lots of amazing stuff that's going to be happening. So stay tuned. Thank you again. And that was Up the North Festival.